Hi, Namaste. This is Surangshu again with a new video on a new topic, which is Kashmir, a hot coffee or tea debate ongoing for a couple of decades now. Recently, I was watching a debate on the independence of Kashmir, which was organized by the Oxford Union. I was raged with the irrelevant facts provided, the kind of unethical, immoral, provocative, and propaganda statements being passed, and so called elite Oxford Union citizens, they were clapping, is ringing bells in my ears. Then I remember a quotation that everyone who grows old, we shouldn't listen to them because, even fools grow old. No wonder after a few years I worry that this very platform will be used to justify that terrorism is also correct and there is kind of moral and ethics to it. Mark the date and my words. I have put forward the word of Sri Prem Shankar Jha, who was the former media advisor to multiple PM of our Bharat. I believe that I also assure I'm also assured that many people also believe that making Kashmir an independent territory is like consciously putting a scapegoat between a highly fragile geopolitical location and among the two emerging world superpowers, the India and China. If we see that the so-called pro-Azad Kashmiris who advocate for independence do so only for the Indian administered part of Jammu and Kashmir, ignoring the Pakistani administered region. This selective approach is evident, and I firmly believe that any proposed solution must apply to the entirety of the original princely state of Jammu and Kashmir. The entire state acceded to India, and any discourse on independence should consider the whole region, not just a part of it. However, since none of these proponents suggest independence for the Pakistani administered areas, I will confine my views to the Indian part of Jammu and Kashmir and leave it to the viewers to reflect on its relevance for Azad Kashmir. I am deeply disturbed by the widespread misunderstanding of fundamental differences between independence and freedom. Okay, see, it is crucial to distinguish between these two concepts. First, we have to understand what actually freedom is. Freedom is about having control over our lives, our choices, our rights, and our ability to worship as we wish. This desire for personal liberty has existed throughout history. For example, Moses led the Israelites out of Egypt in the 13th century BC to free them from oppression. African slaves in America longed for freedom, not to return to Africa, but to gain the same rights as free American citizens. We have all heard about Martin Luther King Jr. So, freedom is an individual birthright and not inherently tied to territorial sovereignty. Now, on the other hand, independence, on the other hand, concerns the control of territory, not personal liberties. The assumption that independent statehood is a prerequisite for freedom is not only simplistic but in today's globalized world often the opposite of reality. Many newly independent nations have found themselves in economic servitude to larger powers, and internal divisions have frequently led to oppression within these states. For example, if I say about the Belgian Congo, Angola, and recently we have seen the Hutu massacre in Rwanda, serve as a stark reminders that independence does not guarantee freedom. Instead of bringing prosperity, often independence resulted in poverty, violence, and tyranny. So many examples we can see at this point of time. See, all the members of the United Nations, I agree, are are independent countries, but how many are democracies? If I may put this question to you, how many of them are democracies? Here I want to give you some observation. The United Nations began with the 51 charter member. Okay, by 1958 the number had risen to 82. By 2011 it was at its present 193. Nearly all the post-colonial members started out as democracies, but how many were able to sustain it? The answer is that only 5 out of the 61 states that joined the UN between 1958 to 1975 were able to sustain their democracy. All of them collapsed into one or other form of dictatorship. When I asked on Google how many of the present members of the United Nations are democracy, the answer I got was there isn't much information on how many UN member states are democracies, but here are some related information dot dot dot. I didn't bother to read the related information because I already got my answer. So hence it is proved that the United Nations requires only sovereignty, not democracy as a prerequisite condition for membership. How low democracy stands can be judged by a finding published by International IDEA, an intergovernmental organization that supports democracy worldwide. That on September, I can't remember the exact date, maybe 23 or 26, 2023, it estimated that democracy ranked 27th in the issues discussed by the United Nations between 2015 to 2023, 8 years. So let me repeat once again. Independence is not a prerequisite even for peace, let alone freedom. On the contrary, far too often in the past 3/4 of a century, it has just become a prelude to tyranny and genocide, and there is one going on now as I speak, and we all know which country I'm referring to. So let me repeat, say that why do we keep conflicting between freedom with independence? I think you should think hard about this question. The answer lies in the legacy of the nation state, which required defined territorial control. Nation states are not natural entities. They were forged through violent suppression and war. Economic and technological changes have historically driven the expansion of markets, leading to the formation of city states, then nation states. These entities protected their economies through strict borders, fostering the illusion that territorial sovereignty equates to freedom. But what is happening now, we have to understand that today, despite the fact that globalization has begun to destroy these protective walls, the identification of freedom and territorial sovereignty continues to dominate our mind. We have, we can say that, therefore, forgotten how violent the creation of the nation state has been. In country after country, if I give the example of Europe, throughout Europe it has subordinated regional languages, dialects, and customs to a single national language, cultural practices, and even religions. Cultural practices and even religions, can you imagine, have been forcibly homogenized, and those who have resisted have been identified as irredeemably alien and been ethnically cleansed. We have seen what the Nazis tried to do. Again, as I say, there's one ethnic cleansing going on right now, and you know about which country I'm talking. I would therefore again like to ask the people, is that the kind of independent state that you want Kashmir to become? You've heard about the multiplicity of territories, religions, and racial and religious mix that the total state of Kashmir is. So would you like them start fighting each other for the dominance immediately after they become an independent state? For me, I wouldn't go for it, and I wouldn't even tolerate it. The question therefore lies that what do the Kashmiri then want? It certainly isn't the kind of independence that Indian Kashmiris want, and this was made abundantly clear by two opinion polls carried out in Jammu and Kashmir by the MORI and Gallup, Europe and US's most respected polling agencies. The MORI poll of 2004 was commissioned by a British organization headed by Lord Avery, called he was known, as the Friends of Kashmir. I think, to their surprise, it showed that almost no one in any part of Indian Kashmir wanted the state or in any part merged with Pakistan. Surprisingly, the data shows, and I read it out, uh, shows that 66% of those polled said they felt that they would be better off politically and economically as Indian citizens. Only 6% said about Pakistani citizenship. 33% said they did not know, and I suspect that is really a way of saying we would like some form of independence. In other more significant finding was that 81% of the respondents wanted the unique cultural identity, that is the Kashmiriyat, to be preserved in any long-term solution. Even in Srinagar, the epicenter of Kashmiri uprising, 76% were of this view. The core of Kashmiriyat is its form of Sufi Islam. There are five variants of this in Kashmir: the Naqshbandi, the Qadri, the Suharwadi, the Kubrawiya, and the Rishi. None of these come even close to the brand of Sunnism advocated by the Jamaat-e Islami, which is now, the form of Islam encouraged in Pakistan. Since its first attempt to annex Kashmir in 1965, Pakistan continuously sought control over Indian administered Kashmir, contributing to misunderstanding and mistrust of Kashmirians. Despite prolonged instability, Kashmiri aspirations remain clear. The 2004 Modi poll highlighted the following priorities: that 86% wanted free and fair elections, 87% sought direct engagement between the Indian government and Kashmiri citizens, 86% called for an end to militancy and violence, and 88% demanded a stop or a stop to cross-border infiltration from Pakistan. Furthermore, 93% prioritized economic development to create jobs and alleviate poverty. The figures illustrate that the core concerns of Kashmiris revolve around governance, security, and economic well-being, not succession or unification with Pakistan. Nowhere it's mentioned. A subsequent Chatham House poll also corroborated these findings. It included an option for independence alongside Indian Pakistan. In Kashmir's most militancy affected districts, if I have to put a data, only 2.5 to 7.5% favored joining Pakistan. The majority expressed a desire for independence, but try to understand, the polling was not done in English. Okay, the report is written in English. The respondents would have used the word Azadi, but Azadi and its companion demands, the Khud Mukhtari and Nizam-e Mustafa, do not have the connotations that the English word independence has. Azadi and Khud Mukhtari are demands for the right to make one's own decisions and choose one's own way of life. This could be for oneself, like individual, one's family, tribe, or certain sect, religious group, or nation. Similarly, Nizam-e-Mustafa is the right to live by the order of the chosen one, in the case of Muslim, by the dictates of the prophet. All three are expressions of the way people wish to live. They are what the late Professor Isaiah Berlin defined in his celebrated essay on two concepts of liberty as positive freedoms. And these are the freedom to control oneself, to act rationally and choose responsibly. As the 2004 MORI poll showed, none of these demands were for the separation of Kashmir from the rest of India, or for that matter, as the Chatham House poll also showed, there was not a demand there. Nowhere the Kashmir wanted to, get independent status from India. So, in conclusion, the pro-Azad Kashmiri community narrative selectively applies the idea of independence, ignoring the complexities and risks involved. The historical evidence, opinion polls, and lived experiences of Kashmiris indicate that independence does not equate to freedom. True freedom comes from democracy, security, and economic stability. As we reflect on Kashmir's future, we must recognize these realities and question that assumptions that have shaped this debate for decades. With this, I would end. If you want to ask more about this topic, you can simply do mail me and I'll try to reply. You can also comment down below if you have any kind of query and I'll repeat it. So, thank you.